Hello, Sungevity. I have a personalized video introduction cover letter I made for you. Well, actually, that's what I'm making now. And I have a script for it, which I'm going to read. And you can actually go to this page and read things yourself. The URL is https://goo.gl/uppercase g, lowercase q, uppercase q, 7, lowercase c, uppercase p. And that should get you to this Google Doc where you can read everything and add comments, follow links, all sorts of fun things. But maybe you're listening to this on a phone, or you'd just rather sit back and not have to push any buttons or actually read anything. Why not? Make it easy for you. So, this is my reading of my introduction cover letter for you. Hello. Your time is valuable, so I'll be brief. Being brief is one of the things I have difficulty with. But I've developed some content management practices to help you deal with my detailed, obsessive, analytical thought process. Here's one way you can deal with my tendency to run off on tangents. Ask yourself what your goal is. If your goal right now in this communication is to decide to put me in the discard pile or put me in the good pile, then let me help you make a decision faster. I want you to stop reading the moment I've qualified to be put in the good pile. Promise me that you'll stop reading if I've qualified to be put in the good pile. I introduce new material lower and more material later in my communications with you that you don't need to read or care about anymore if you put me in the good pile. I want you to skip the work of further reading and stop reading the moment you decide I've crossed the threshold of minimum merit to warrant being placed in the good pile. So right now, you don't know me, and you're thinking, what has this guy said to convince me to spend another minute listening? I already know all this. I want you to promise me that if you think to yourself, okay, this candidate is worth advancing, then you'll stop reading further until just before the next round that I'm reviewed. I want to keep that surprise you'll get from reading the next line of my cover letter and use it strategically for the next round of advancement for the position of User Experience Design Manager. Strategically, I could graph your expectation level of the course of reviewing my application. I want to start and hover at the minimum needed to get to the next round, and then expectations can rise gradually as I advanced into the candidate selection process. It's better to underpromise than overpromise, and this promise I'm asking of you will help me keep my promise to you. My promise that I'll continue to be worth your time to read and watch when you return for further consideration. So hopefully this is at least a little interesting to you, and it'll get more interesting as I go further along in the candidacy process. Right now, if you're in the task of sorting applicants into piles, then you'll engage in what's called task-oriented thinking. Task-oriented thinking is good at overcoming obstacles and poor at recognizing unexpected opportunities. That's what you're doing right now. You're a clever person, and I expect you to overcome obstacles well, so I want your mind to have an operational nudge or a convenience factor if it puts me in the good pile. Instead of having your background attention working on the task of putting me in the bad pile, yes or no, you might have a convenience bias to put me in the good pile sooner instead of putting me in the bad pile later. Because the sooner you decide good pile, the sooner you can stop reading and go on. Check that resume off. I'd like to use this sort of cognitive strategies and nudging in products that I designed for you. This introduction hopefully broke you free of your task focus, and for a while at least, you got off task or contemplated shifting task because of what I just said and what I will write more about in the letter later. Thank you, and now back to the Google document where you can continue reading and learning why I should be put in the good pile. Click here to return to the top of the document. So we're going to click here, and we'll pick up where we left off when I started with this. So I want to thank you for your time. You've already listened patiently. Hopefully it was some amusement. I want to start by sharing with you my personal user experience and how I found out about Sungevity's search for a UX manager through the efforts of Jocelyn at Towner, who called me and asked if I was interested and wanted to apply. This was my response to her. Hello, Jocelyn. Here's more info on the Sungevity position I think you're referring to, Ed. And I put a link in there, which you can't enjoy if you're listening to this on TV or YouTube, I guess would be more right. I think I'd be a good fit for the position you describe in the URL. I have applied to them, blah, blah, blah. This part's probably better reading. So I'm going to stop here. And some of the things that you'll see if you continue reading, a very nice resume. That's my graphic designer version. Old graphic design portfolio stuff. This just goes on and on. I can do video, 3D motion, production grade Photoshop work, all sorts of things. But the thing that really gets me excited, of course, is user experience design. And oh, that's some nice information graphics back here. I love this for the information graphics. I did that. That was for the lie aware in the environment. A play on the word lawyers. Lie aware lawyers. Lie awares are lawyers that work for earthjustice.org and need our support because they're endangered. Here's a repackaging diagram for General Electric. I wanted to push GE in a green direction for a new model and a new brand. So that's their new logo, and I can do that sort of work for you in packaging. Oh, but this is what really excites me. This is a real website that I built for a couple who does seminars and training for parents of autistic and Asperger's children. Great couple, that's them there. And I did this in Flash, so I don't know if it's really relevant in terms of technical skills anymore. I could talk about how great it was, but maybe you don't care because it's in Flash. This is some more CSS and guarding. This is a standard sort of practice here. Everybody's job for CSS and guarding is to take this HTML and using nothing but CSS style it. So I did all this from a plain flat semantic HTML document. Made it look pretty just using CSS. That shows I'm good at CSS. Some more web design, making it look stylish instead of technique. We can do that. This is a little blog website I did for school. Another one for Rochambeau Winery and Gallery. I love their theme. I put video in it and did a lot of UI, UX advances that really made that project excel in my mind. It was a chance to integrate a lot of UI, UX. This is kind of a nice sort of simple restaurant menu example. Zara, this was nice. I'm playing with the user experience of browsing. There's a lot of theories on how browsers shop for clothing, and I'm trying to duplicate that by making these individual ones here linked slightly differently. So the first one is always the product you're looking at, this icon, or this photo, and it's got little boxes you can highlight, so you can buy her top or her bracelet. And here's another example. You can buy this, you can buy this. So we're taking a style photo and we're pointing out purchasable items. If you purchase on them, you'll get something like this, a close-up, and you'll get different poses on the clothing or perhaps a seam detail. But if you're just browsing, you're going to have this, and these are alternatives that you may want to browse to next. Now, these are not chosen at random. This one here, the top left, is always the previous one you've seen. So just like on a browsing cart where you are looking at clothing on a rack and you're looking at one and then you turn it to the left and you can see it on the left while you're looking at the new one on the right. This is sort of similar, although reversed in direction. This is your current one, and this is the last one you just looked at it. So you're comparing that. And then this one, and this one are sort of variations. So this one is going to be some similar styles and seasons to this photo. They're all variations of the main photo that you're looking at. So imagine next on the rack would be a slight variation of this. Well, we have that. I think this one is a slight variation of the top. This one here is a slight variation of the bottom. And this is a slight variation that matches and harmonizes the scenery and the event. So we're doing 3 of these different directions. You might want to prefer browsing by color. You might want to prefer browsing by season. You might want to prefer browsing by item. Each of these will continually cycle through. So if you click on this one here, this dress here in the upper right corner, you just keep clicking on it. You keep cycling through browsing based on item. This is the item thing, and as long as I click on item, then it would make this the big one, and then this would go to the last viewed, and this would be the keep cycling through tops section. This would be the keep cycling through bottoms. Now what if I click here, which is the seasonal, and then the seasonal would become main. This here would go to the last viewed window, and these would not necessarily be item direction anymore. So we're kind of randomly playing with, this might be a seasonal variation or a pant variation or a model variation. We vary these, but if you click on them, we stick to them. So we're kind of recording all this and using it in metrics to say, hey, do people like to shop browsing by item or browsing by season? And we'll use analytics from the website uses to refine these 4 pictures on both a general, we don't know you sort of basis. Most people like to browse by item, but some of them like to browse by season, so maybe we start with those defaults for the first opportunity. But maybe we also have a personal user object, so that for you as a user, we know you always like to shop based on topic. And then we only show you topic variations. So like if you click on here, it's a top, we show you a top, a top, a top, and maybe a seasonal, right? Just to let you break out of your pattern. But mostly you're going to be cycled through different variations of top. We want to adjust this, much like a real showroom attendant would. So these are the 4 things that the clothing showroom attendant would most likely show you next is our goal. Whether they're in the same topic or not, or whether they're whatever, well, that changes based on your response, just like a real showroom attendant would change it based on your response. I think I'm getting a little excited about the web design. This is something I can go over in more detail if you're interested. This is my favorite, the online address book. I love doing web app design. Applications are the place where user experience design can be most effective. Here we've got pro and cons of a competitor, what they do good in their address book, what they don't. So here I had a lot of trouble restraining my writing. I mean, this is kind of like, design notes. So we've got, your typical flow chart and, your use cases and your users and all that. But here's the real joy to it. These are some UI enhancements, like clicking on a delete button. A prompt is open to clarify the intended action. Drop shadow increases visual hierarchy of prompt level. So I'm specifying that generally whatever has focus should be lifted above, elevated with a drop shadow. That's a UI framework sort of principle, a guiding visual principle. Whatever you're interacting with is raised above the page with a drop shadow. And we need to clarify what you're deleting, because you could be deleting the person in an address book, you could be deleting them from an address group, or you could be deleting them from the entire address book, or you could be just deleting them from a subgroup, like my friends group or my work group. Maybe you're changing them. And that would actually be moving. But people don't really know the difference, and we overload the icon, the minus icon, to mean no. So then we have to prompt you. And that's kind of good. It gives people a second chance as well when deleting things. Nobody likes to delete things with just one click. Well, here's your second click. Tell us it's this or it's this. And then you get 2-click delete. Of course, there is an undo feature. But other enhancements were radio buttons use mouse over hitbox equal to entire paragraph for faster and more reliable clicking. So if I wanted to click on delete one contact, or maybe delete globally all links and information, I just have to mouse over here. I don't have to move the mouse right into the center of this button, right into the center of that. That's too much work. Just here, it highlights the button, shows that it will be clicked. All I have to do now is click it to make it permanent. Much faster. That's an element of Fitts law, which is time on target for a person to click is related to the distance the mouse has to travel, traveling a long distance, going to a small button, or traveling the same distance, going to a large button. Much easier to do a large button. So we're expanding the button. The idea is we don't, when deciding how big to make your click state, my goal is don't ask the question, what is the minimum clickable thing we can make? How small can we make the clickable size object? No, the answer is ask ourselves, if the user were to click anywhere on this page, maybe on the word or maybe on the word groups, or maybe on the radio button, what is their most likely intention? So I think anytime they click anywhere in here, they probably, more likely than not, want to delete. So I take any click anywhere here as being delete. If they miss, it still works. I know what they intended. If they click here, that's fine. I know they meant it to click delete. Good enough. There is an undo button. Oh, and then we confirm action. User can confirm successful delete as contact details. So this was spec'd out, and we did lots of things like user analysis and competitive analysis, and oh, here's some more dragging and dropping operations, the larger buttons for easier readability when you highlight over them, blah blah blah. It's actually pretty interesting to me. Not much of a blah blah blah, but those are some of the highlights of what I can do. I've got a Slack work sample. You can read me talking to my team leader about introducing Google Groups into our group for communication facilitation. But all those links are in here in my initial letter to Jocelyn. And that I guess was really intended to you. It was disappointing. I like her, but since I already applied to you in the past, she couldn't recommend me. So she deserves a bonus point. She's one of the recruiters that have honored your request not to submit candidates who have already applied to you. Give her a little bonus brown point, I think. And read the complete letter where you'll see links to my hello video, my up-to-date resume, all the stuff you've seen, and onboarding documents, brainstorming documents, more about SF in progress, and I'll also comment on your job application, sort of brainstorming about what you wrote in your job description and how that relates to me and what I think about that. It'll be a little bit overwhelming, so I tend to not be brief. I have a problem with that. But maybe I've said enough already that you don't even need to read any of this. You can just put me in the good pile. Thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you.